I've been dancing the dog tag before.
You know what?
We would probably have to. We would probably have to increase the public comment time to about 2 throws for $1. We'd have more money to be going Can you figure out how to stay on a little longer?
I go to settings, change your sleep mode.
Oh, where's good old sleep mode?
I know that we had complaints on some of the things that
We usually do it in June.
Brightness display. Auto lock. Wouldn't be auto lock, would it?
They'll just have to take
That auto
Hey
lock.
Chris, when is that public meeting you're talking about, the 23rd, what time?
Whatever time. We have done them during regular meeting. No, during a regular meeting. This is the public hearing, not the open house.
I'm sorry, that's the house you were talking about. Okay.
Yeah,
There, it should never go.
historically done.
Put it to never for me.
Ooh,
Good man, Dave.
I'm not so good.
Hey, down my moment. Thank God I didn't use it until 6:30 tonight. Most days I'm done by about 8:20 in the morning, and I'm done. And they have to live through the rest of the night.
Is it the guest one?
Yeah.
Yes, yep.
But there's no internet connection tonight.
So our internet down?
I was told I had no internet connection.
Mine's working.
Yeah, just go to internet there.
It should be in the city of Tracy.
Just hit the refresh thing.
Have you seen the front of our building?
Yeah, we're having the same thing. There's no connection to it.
Tony, are you on?
yeah, I just updated it.
See, this is why we always print
What you're looking for, right?
Yep.
Or I mean,
Really? No, you gotta sit.
hit my back.
You can glide it,
You know why that is? It's because it's.
And then she hit my back arrow a couple times.
There you go, now just, all you gotta do is pick it up.
Go to government.
Yeah, that'd be good.
City departments, or yeah, that one, and hit, yep, hit the refresh.
Drew a blank, thank you.
It's not connected.
Okay, there you go, now just hit the refresh. Back again, maybe.
Does everybody wear a mask?
Dawn and-
Are you the governor asking, or is it? I'm not gonna incriminate myself.
So you go into the boys, nobody has nothing. You go into the rollers, nobody has nothing.
You got your, as long as you got your 6 foot.
Maybe not quite 40.
I'm on it, refresh.
It's funny when people walk in.
Let's go.
I'm up there a little way away from everybody.
It's just
They walk in
thinking
and
and
say, I don't have a
thinking,
mask on.
isn't
They go,
The internet.
is it okay?
it? It is.
You wanna, why don't I give you my tax? I'll just give you the print copy,
Yeah.
and then I can work out this agenda.
Thank you.
Because I know the material anyway, so.
Unless you can get it to refresh.
Because I think we're at 6:30, Diane.
Yeah.
George, get over. Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll call to order the meeting of the Tracy City Council for Monday, October 26th. You stand and join the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Looks like we're doing the invocation tonight. Mark, does you want to do that?
Bless you all.
So the next item is going to be the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Make a motion to approve as written.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So before we do the public hearing, we'll go to public comment. Is there any member from the public that would like to address the council for anything that is not on the agenda? If so, step up, name and address, and you have 2 minutes.
Okay, my name is Shirley Anderson, and I live at 701 Randall Street. And you're talking about the multipurpose center tonight. I would like to explain a little bit about the past of the multipurpose center building and how things were obtained. First, the city agreed to maintain and provide upkeep of the building if grants were secured for the remodeling and furnishing of the building. The grants were secured, the building was sold to the city for $1. My father was on the council, and his name is on the agreement. When the old nursing home was sold, there were 2 checks given to the center for donations. One was $70,000 and one was for $20,000 or $25,000. Also, people have donated money from their wills. These donated funds were in a separate column under the multipurpose center's budget. I was on the multipurpose center board when a new stainless steel kitchen was installed for almost $70,000. New windows were put up on the second floor for another 10 or 12. Then the air conditioner was put in for another $10,000. The multipurpose board did report to the council, as they were appointed by the council as governing board for the multipurpose center and its budget. The pancake breakfast was initiated as a fundraiser. There were also fundraising events, and these monies were there to go to fix things and buy things such as appliances when things were needed to be replaced. The senior dining committee was formed to handle those funds. This committee did not report to the city, as they were not appointed by the council. So there was a multipurpose board and the senior dining committee at the multipurpose center, but providing very different functions. Everything in that building was purchased by grants, donations, or funds raised from the citizens of Tracy, except for the TV and the small fridge in the vault, which were both purchased by the city. On Friday, my mother and I, Vera Anderson, met with Eric Hansen and Jeff Carpenter. They proceeded to explain what their plans are for moving forward. We think they have a very good proposal at this time, and they are going to present this tonight. I'm hoping everyone will keep an open mind about this. They said everything at the multipurpose center would be moved to the new location. I do think a mistake was made in sending the letter to the LSS on October 13th. It should not have been sent until they first had a meeting with LSS to explain what they were trying to do. Even if they didn't have a perfect place to move to, and they were still looking, they should have explained this. I personally feel some backtracking should be done to appease LSS, and even if that's done, I'm not sure they will accept moving to where the city is suggesting. They may be upset at this point, and they may be trying to move to a new location themselves or even a different town. I really think someone put the cart before the horse in sending that letter, and something has to be done to make amends. They play a very important part in our city and in our community. They serve almost 200 meals a week from that facility. All the seniors ever wanted was transparency. We need to know, we would like to know what's going on with that building and where we're moving to. Now, Jeff and Eric have explained that to us, so that's a good thing. It may be a little small, but I think we can work that out, even if we have to open up a doorway for the other part of the building. So I hope everybody's on board with that when they discuss it tonight, because you're going to get that building over there off from your city roles in having to support that building, and it's going to need a lot of work to keep it up. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public on the public comment?
go. And if you have any questions, give me a call. Dad was on the council for 25 years. And Mom lived here. She graduated from Tracy and lived here just about all her life. Okay.
Well, I didn't bring copies of this for everybody what I'm about to read, so I hope that doesn't cause any difficulties here. But I did want to make a few comments about the, can you hear me okay?
Name and who you are.
Mark Seeger, that's in the start of this here. 200 North Street here in Tracy. I'll just go ahead and start reading here. I'm the owner of Prairie Home Medical Supply and Second One CPAP here in Tracy. I own a total of 4 buildings downtown and operate both of my businesses out of those buildings, and I have for about 11 years now. As I'm sure you are all aware, it is and has been a continuing challenge for rural communities to not only maintain economic vitality, but to also preserve their historic downtown corridor. This challenge, of course, exists everywhere in rural America, and I do think that one aspect directly affects the other, in that economic viability affects historic preservation. My comments this evening will be focused on my thoughts on the importance of preserving our history and working towards the economic vitality of our historic downtown. Although I have lived in Tracy for only 18 years, I fully appreciate that all of our buildings downtown hold within them countless memories of thousands of people going back generations. I mention this because I believe that there is at the heart of why members of a rural community find importance in preserving a historic downtown. At its heart, at its center, are memories and stories and events. And the buildings act as a physical marker to the history of a community. As you may know, over the years I've invested considerable money into the preservation of a total of 5 buildings to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars that I know I'll never get back. And I've had many people over the years ask me why I would do something like that, because the assessed value is so much less than what I've invested in the buildings. And my answer to that is because it's important. And I believe it's important because there is a sense of responsibility that I feel anyway to the community to preserve those things that are important to those who live here now and to those who have had families that have been here for generations. The only thing that is going to keep a historic downtown alive is active and vibrant people, human beings. So it follows that we must create a downtown that attracts and beckons people to be part of it. People from all walks of life, all stations, all age groups to experience it. To make it a destination, whether it's the end point of a couple taking a walk in the evening, a family heading out of town on Saturday to shop local, to go to a dental appointment or do their taxes or buy medical equipment. The idea, obviously, is to have them experience downtown and linger and spend money and soak it in. Every rural community is competing for foot traffic in their downtown. Every rural community is trying to maintain a quality of life and preserve their history. And they try to keep an eye towards the future at the same time. I believe that in order to be successful, Tracy must adopt an out-of-box thinking. We must be open-minded and forward-thinking, and most importantly, open to change. We have recently experienced a much-needed upgrade to the infrastructure of our downtown, which has provided a facelift, an upgrade to the layout and the landscape of our historic corridor. In the spirit of striking while the iron is hot, we now sit poised with an opportunity to bring an incredible restaurant cafe to town. It is one that is owned and operated by a talented, capable couple that have already proven that through creativity and hard work, you can find success in rural downtown America. There is little doubt that the addition of their cafe will help add to the attractiveness and the viability of our historic downtown. To my mind, Tracy is on a roll. The newspaper recently had an article that outlined all the positive changes and growth that we've seen downtown over the last year alone. A popular renovated bowling alley, tanning salon, and an overall facelift, tune-up, as it were, to downtown. So in closing, it is my sincere hope that we are able to keep the ball rolling by working together and through differences in a sincere way to keep an open mind as we move forward, planning for the future of Tracy and its downtown experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else for public comment? Okay. Got a couple of minutes before you start the public hearing. If you want to move on to the next item of the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 12th minutes, the approval of the municipal accounts payable without breakthrough beverage, to approve the municipal accounts receivable, and approve the charter minutes from September 29.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Then go ahead and call the vote.
Jones?
Aye.
Landite?
Aye.
Teague?
Aye.
Chow?
Aye.
Mayor Peterson?
Aye. Motion carries. I need a motion to pay breakthrough beverage.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? We'll call the vote.
Jones? Aye. Chow?
Aye.
Landite?
Aye.
Mayor Peterson?
Aye. Motion carries. That was too fast.
I'll talk slower next time.
Does anyone have anything for Mayor Council Communications? Just, I'd like to say again, Eric, Diane, Adam, Pear, Tyler, thanks for the forums. I think they provided an insight for the members of the community to see who's running, what the candidates are, what they stand for, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. And that was still too fast.
Well, on that note, the replay of those forums are on the city channel every day at 10 and 6. Is it for the mayor one? And is it going to be for the council?
Right after.
Right after? Just so people, if they don't realize if they missed it, that is available for them to watch the reruns.
It's on YouTube as well,
Oh,
on the city YouTube channel.
YouTube too.
When will that stop?
Election day.
Unless you want it to go past that,
Yeah.
George, you know.
Oh. Okay, it's 6:45. Call to order the public hearing for considering changes to the city charter. Rosemary, did you want to explain what the changes are and what we're going to do here today?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, the attorney, our administrator, Diane. Your last meeting or so ago, no, a couple of meetings ago, you approved all the other changes that had been brought forward by the charter, and we really struggled with this one. And the members of the charter just felt that it needed to be cleaned up to afford more transparency to sale of public property. As you can see by the old section there's no call for a public hearing. And that public hearing only comes after you have done your work. I think the MPC would be a really good example of that. Some of that you had to do quietly while you were working through the process. It's just at the end of the day, people want to be able to have the ability to have transparency at a public hearing to say, you know, I think it's terrible or I think I really like it. But the decision is still very much so the council's, and it's also the council's decision on whether they want to do competitive bids. It's just all spelled out a whole lot more clearly. Do you have any other questions about?
I did.
Okay.
Why is it listed in there that it needs to be at least 5 members of council approving it? Why isn't it just say a simple majority?
That's a good question. Why did we come to that? I think that is a simple
I think
majority
that's-
in the new council. That would be.
4 to 3 would be a simple majority in the new council.
I think, and
As the head of
Matt
the-
might be able to offer
Okay.
a little bit more of an explanation, but my memory is that that's what it was before, and so we kept it that way, so
That is correct. The way the charter's written right now, it
Has
has
to be
5
unanimous.
members.
Yeah.
So it wasn't changed, but obviously the council can modify that if it deems appropriate.
So then it would have to be by a unanimous vote. Because 5 is unanimous. on
Currently,
5.
it would be.
Currently, yes.
Right.
It just requires a majority of the council to approve the sale.
So wouldn't it be better to just say, have it be the majority? So if we change council,
Right.
just listening to the forum Sunday night,
Right.
last night, you know, if all of a sudden we go back to 5, or if we stay at 7, or we go to 9, you know, whatever, that we just say a majority vote, then it doesn't matter what the size is. It's just always going to be a majority
Can that language
vote.
be inserted in there instead of
Yes,
5
that'd be a way
majority?
to address that so you don't have to continuously change that provision if
Right.
the
'cause that costs
council size expands or decreases. The way the charter reads right now is it has 5 members requiring a vote.
Right.
So that was just carried over. That was just done to maintain that if like I said, the council wants to change
Simple
it.
majority.
Just a majority of the council members. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing in the state statute that requires a supermajority.
Majority, right, okay. So you can, do I have to amend that, or can they just move
No,
it?
the council would do that.
Okay.
They're-
Their
they're-
motion.
yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay, then, Rosemary, I think this time I'll open it up to any member
Alrighty.
from the public that would like to
Okay.
comment on those proposed changes. And hearing none, then I will close the public portion of the public hearing and move this back to the council for actions. So,
Well, do I need to make a motion on that to change the wording, or
yeah,
do we go with just a majority?
Majority of the council.
So I would change the second line, that the conditions approved by at least a majority of the members of the council.
I'll second that motion.
and we have a motion and a second to amend the change.
And
So-
because the recommendation came from the Charter Commission, the council can pass the ordinance, and then it does not need to be submitted to the voters if the council passes it unanimously.
Unanimously, right. So, got a motion and a second on the changing of the verbiage. We'll call the vote.
Martel,
Aye.
Monday,
Aye.
Teagues,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
and Mayor Peterson.
Aye, that motion carries. So then, at this time, if you'd like, you can go ahead and make a motion to approve that resolution as changed, and we can get that out of the way.
So I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2020-67, amending the city charter, chapter 12, section 1202, with the changes that were recently approved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? We'll call the vote.
Schultz,
Aye.
Martel,
Aye.
Monday,
Aye.
Teagues,
Aye.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye. Motion carries. The resolution's adopted. Oh, that's done, that's done. Department head reports. Chief, you want to go first?
Evening. Really don't have anything more in my report other than we've had a couple recent unfortunate snowfalls and some snow events. So just mention that if people aren't getting the notifications about using off-street parking, that they can sign up for our Nixle, where we'll send them text messages that say that there's no on-street parking at night, and that number is 888-7777. So it's 3 8s and 3 7s, and all you got to do is text the number 56175 to that number, and you'll get the notifications. So otherwise, it's been published on our Facebook account. Try to do it a couple times during the day, and it's also been put out on the radio. So
Sounds good.
I have to say it was nice that the officers went around before the first snowfall, and if people had cars on the street, they did knock on their door to give them a forewarning that they should get it off the street or they could possibly get a ticket. I thought that was going above and beyond, so.
we tried to do that the first time, and we still had 19 people that didn't listen. So
Well, you might have had more though.
yep,
I'm
I
just
probably
saying,
would have.
You know what, you guys
So.
can only do so much. I just appreciate, because I thought that was going above and beyond.
Oh, thank you.
Nice job.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Val?
All right, I don't really have anything to add to my report this month. We're just happy to have our street finished out front and things are starting to pick up, which is very nice. So, otherwise, if you have any questions.
Anything for Val?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Peg?
No changes to the report that was supplied. I won't take Jeff's thunder away from him. He's got some good news to report about the business grants. And the only thing I do want to point out is with the MNLARs changing with the state, our office will be closed for driver's license and for motor vehicle starting Veterans Day, November 11th, 12th, and 13th, because the state will be down completely. So we'll still be open for city business, but we won't be able to process registrations and businesses.
It'll be on the webpage.
Yeah, we'll get that all updated and posted. And it'll be all of the state of Minnesota, not just us. So, any questions?
Sounds good.
Nope, like the report,
Thank you.
though.
Yeah. Tam?
Just want to say we had a great September. We were concerned, with Boxcar Days not being here, or like normal, that we'd be down because of not as many people in town, but we actually had an increase of over 3,000. And had an awesome September for profit and loss. In fact, I tried to look back through the records, and there was never never a month that we had like that, or they didn't even have at the end of the year like that in several years. So we did great there. Going to do a tasting in November for 2 days because they started doing them in other towns. So if we figured if we did it in 2 days, it would separate the people from coming in, and of course they have to wear masks and that kind of thing, but before the holidays. And still doing October is Food Shelf Month, so we're on behalf of like MMBA and Miller Lite. We're accepting donations for the food shelf, and that's about it. If we have any questions or.
So when you do the tasting, where are you going to have it at in the store?
I'm not really sure yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
There's actually a shelf that we're not using right now that we could actually put it in that corner right there, kind of like where the bathroom is. We'll remove that shelf and the excess beer won't be there, so probably right there actually. It'll be back in the corner and away from traffic from the counter and that kind of thing.
That's
so
what I was just wondering, so if people.
Keep it away from people, yeah. Yep.
Perfect.
And that way if we do it in 2 days, we'll kind of spread out from, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, get some of the new stuff and then for the holidays and that kind of thing out there. And all the stuff for the tasting gets donated from the different vendors, so it doesn't cost us for that. But
Is that my cue?
that's your cue. I'll be hitting you up on Wednesday.
Okay.
But yeah, still doing well, still people commenting how nice it looks and that kind of thing, and still hearing that people happen to drive by and see it. It's like perfect, that's why we moved here. So, yeah, it's going good. Anybody?
Well, thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
I was going to call Shane, but that's all right.
Won't last.
He always wants to be first.
Everybody laughs at me. Everybody stops talking when I come in the room. First of all, we're in the process of writing a couple more grants, and I don't want to really talk about those tonight, but I do want to think that it's all the heavy lifting is being done by Val. All of it. Every bit of the what I can't write or I can't put into words, I want her writing my obituary, that's for sure.
Well, let's hope that.
So in a few years we'll start to talk about that eventually. But she needs a lot of credit on how well she can take one of those grants that's 50 pages long and putting everything into them. And you know exactly how one of those grants looks like and what it takes, and she's doing a fantastic job with that. So there's some more things coming. We're not done. I'd also like tonight, I'd like to thank Shirley and Mark for coming up here and talking about the positive things that are happening downtown and the support from both of you. And Mark is absolutely right. Thinking outside the box and what we can do in downtown Tracy and on Highway 14 is, and I feel that we've just started, and we got a long ways to go, but we need to keep that just the ball rolling, and that's all we need to do. Is Eric and I have got a lot of ideas, and some of them we laugh about, but a lot of them look at it and goes, well, that's a good idea. We should probably try something like that. So a couple things I want to go over with tonight. Peggy had mentioned that there is some good news with the COVID-19 communications and that CARES grant money. Last month I talked about, we're looking at maybe $300,000 or so coming into the city from the county and the city funds. I actually believe, and I don't think I'm letting anything out of the bag, but I believe we will go over $400,000. Money that will come in eventually that will be coming into the city. I think that it's really helped create a positive attitude in a maybe not such a positive time that we're living in right now. So there's nothing like a little extra money in the pockets to take care of that type of thing. So again, I'll keep giving my updates on that, but I do believe after the next couple of weeks we'll be able to talk about $400,000 as opposed to $300,000. Other thing I just want to mention, anything else on here, you can give me a call if you need, but the UCAP, the Small Cities Grant, we sent in 2 more applications today. I believe I've almost lost count. I believe that they're going to jump up into about 25. So we're getting to the point where when people are calling me asking me whether they can still apply, yes, you can still apply, but now I'm having them call my contact at United Community Action just to make sure that it's worth it for them to apply right now. We've gotten that fast. This is blown. We had 2 years to get rid of this, and we're going to have done it in 7 months. So there's 2 of them that are done. One of them actually I'm delivering the check for the down payment and to the contractor on Thursday. So we're going to have 2 projects out of the 21 that are done already. There's 2 more that are in process and 4 more that are all the way through their inspection period. So it's flown by. And what we talked about before is the quicker we can get through this, the quicker we can get that money through the system and into the houses here in town, the quicker we can apply for this again in maybe even as early as 23 or 24. Okay, any questions? Anybody got anything for me?
Any update on where we're at with the county EDA program?
I didn't bring it up tonight because there hasn't been anything. When I left for MEA weekend and took a couple days off, I told them I didn't want the meeting while I was gone, and so they didn't have it then. But there hasn't been anything since then. No, I'm at the CARES grant. I'm going to go through the process with the county board tomorrow. We're going to go through and start approving some more of the CARES money to go out to some of the businesses in the county. And I was asked to come in and just sit in on the board with them tomorrow. So
super.
Lots of money coming in. That's good.
Good. Okay. Good. Shane?
As Chief Lichty had mentioned, we've had a few rounds of snow removal, unseasonably early compared to other years, but hopefully it'll disappear by the end of the week. I don't know if you had any other questions, anything else that was going on as far as my report went. Be happy to answer them.
Anything for Shane?
We do have all the park bathrooms are now winterized, so they're closed due to the cold temperatures that hit us here. Kind of about the same time we generally close them anyway, but we got all them closed early last week, and the pool's all winterized for the year too. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Shane? Hey, Eric, I'll turn the floor over to you for any updates you may have in your multi-purpose presentation.
All I really have is a multi-purpose presentation tonight. I want to thank Shirley and Mark for coming here tonight, and I really appreciated meeting with Shirley on Friday afternoon on such short notice, and her mother as well. It was a good meeting. And we met with the senior dining board as well, and so we've been, talking to folks about this idea for a little while. I want to kind of start with the big picture. Mark did a great job of outlining the big picture, so I don't know that I necessarily need to, but I'm going to show a video that it's just, there's no sound on it. I may narrate it just because you may not be able to see it, but that I showed the Planning Commission a couple of weeks ago, and it kind of gives you an idea of what downtown might be able to be. And it's talking about the form of our towns and cities and how it affects our quality of life, and how facades should welcome people and not repel them. So you can see the transformation that's happening in this video. The changes that can be made, to communities, just in terms of how they look and how it makes people feel about their community. And I thought this was a great example of taking a sidewalk and making it wider and adding some of the streetscapes. It even looks a little bit like our light poles, weirdly. Talking about revitalizing small towns, and what you can do. And I think that's it. This was a video that's put together by the Form-Based Codes Institute, and I gave a little bit of a presentation to the Planning Commission about this, but the idea is that, zoning in terms of how things look, and the kinds of things we might be able to do downtown. Now, we've got a comprehensive plan update next year, as you know, and a lot of this is going to come following some of that. Ultimately, it tees up a little bit kind of this discussion of the kinds of things we might, need to do downtown to make it more of a destination. And so that's kind of the vision. And I want to talk a little bit about the specifics of what might be happening at the multi-purpose center. And I'll tie that back a little bit to kind of the vision, for what this might look like. So over the summer, we kind of started courting, a daytime cafe and coffee shop. And so this is a business that will be open during the day, and so it wouldn't compete with a lot of our evening business, such as Bonnie and Clyde's and the Caboose and things like that. We showed them around downtown and said, there's a number of buildings. What makes sense for you? We'd really like you to come here, including the multi-purpose center. And they really. Actually, I'll tell you specifically, they said, that building speaks to me, which was an interesting kind of way to put it. Well, we thought, this is a problem because, we've got the senior there and LSS and the cafe and everything else, and, what do you do about that? And so our initial thought was, well, maybe we could figure out a way to put them together in the same space at the same time, because there are other senior centers in Southwest Minnesota where the senior center's at a cafe, or maybe they serve the meal at a cafe, but both Lutheran Social Services as well as this potential cafe said, we don't think that works. mainly because of the health code regulations. You know, we both have to have a license. We'd be in each other's space all the time. You know, that doesn't make any sense for us. And so we said, okay, well, what are we going to do? If this is going to work, we have to move then the senior center to a different location. Well, that really complicates things because there's cost. Where do you do that? We looked at a lot of different options. And Lutheran Social Services was actually in town, and we looked at some of the options with them as well. We ultimately decided to move it to a different location. I'll talk about that in a second. Ultimately, after we decided what we were going to propose to do, we talked to the cafe, and they said, yep, we want to do this. You know, we think this makes sense. It's kind of a big deal because, you know, Jeff told me at one time, he said, you know, we don't have a lot of businesses just banging down our doors, you know, wanting to do business here, particularly, you know, folks that are willing to take a risk on a business like this. We thought that was pretty amazing, and I'm going to tell you because we don't have permission to use their name yet, although I think that's going to come out fairly quickly. But this is a successful business that has a strong brand. And I spent the first kind of 10 or 12 years in my professional career in a business-to-consumer marketing role in the private sector, and I think I have a pretty good sense for what good marketing looks like. And these people have good marketing, and that's what it takes really to make a business like this successful in a small town. You can't just put something there and expect people to show up. You have to work at it. Like any small business, you have to work at it. And I think that these people will work at it. The other exciting thing about it is that when we showed them around the building, well, they wanted to see the upstairs. And a lot of people who've been around town might remember that there were offices upstairs. But there hasn't been something up there for a couple of decades now. But when you walk up, and it has a separate entrance, it's almost like stepping back in time, you know, and you know, you've seen these home improvement shows where people go in and they renovate properties, and while their eyes just got really big and thought, this is an exciting opportunity. You know, we've been looking for a property where not only could we do a cafe, but we could also do an Airbnb potentially, which would bring additional people to town. I know we've had a bed and breakfast in town, and of course we have the, you know, small kind of hotel, but if you want to bring people to town, you got to have a place for them to stay. And so, you know, this is more than just potentially a cafe. This is an expanded vision of that. I won't sell it as much as be able to explain as much as they will, and I think that's going to happen relatively soon. So it's pretty exciting. I mean, when you're talking about revitalizing a downtown and what you might be able to do, we're already doing it with the bump outs and the new street, and you know, the street lights are historic looking, and we thought, well, we're not going to do this. And I'm telling you that Jeff had a conversation with these folks today, and they were very explicit with us. They said, you know what? We will not come to town until you figure out this senior center issue. We're just not going to do that. We don't want to be the folks that you know, push anybody out, or even if it's not true, they don't want people to think that of them, because they would put the community first, and that's the kind of people they are, which makes me feel real good about the opportunity in the first place. So, like I said, we looked at several different locations around town. Each one was kind of lacking for a lot of different reasons. Lutheran Social Services have been in these spaces, and we've been actively working with them to meet their needs. And ultimately, what we decided, after looking at all these options, to recommend to you that we move to the community room above the VMC over here. We knew this was going to present a problem for us. But it has some advantages. You know, why would we do this? You know, one, this is an existing space we're already paying to maintain. We're already putting utilities into it. We already have to clean it, but it's just very rarely used. I think the Girl Scouts are pretty much the only people that use it. Occasionally you have community events there, but it just isn't used very often. The space, incidentally, also has a kitchen. It used to be brought up to code, but it does have a kitchen that was previously used, and so it makes sense in that context. It's actually larger in square footage than the existing space over there. It's about 1,700 square foot if we stepped it off correctly, give or take. And we think that some of the upfront costs that it's going to take to bring it up to snuff can be paid for by long-term savings. And one of the things that needs to be done is we need to have a elevator, a lift put in, because it's on the second floor, and you can't ask a senior center to be on the second floor when it's not accessible to handicapped folks. We think we've requested some that the county's going to have some additional money through the CARES grants, and because we're already putting the 8th graders up there, and because that is not accessible to the 8th graders, and that is because of COVID, that's money that the county could potentially give us, for that as well. Although that's not a done deal, we feel really good about it, given the fact that the county has so much money left over that they can't spend and don't want to give back. So like I said, what do we need to do to that space? Well, we've got to have a wheelchair lift like the ones we have in the library to allow accessibility. We've got to remodel the kitchen, the current standards for a commercial kitchen. We've already had Chris Hansen, who's from Southwest Health and Human Services, here to take a look at it. Shane and I has also taken a look at it, put together a little bit of a plan, and we've been discussing what it's going to take in order to make that happen. One of the big discussions, and it was already brought up tonight, was, well, what about all that equipment and everything that was purchased through the senior dining program? We've already told the potential cafe that equipment was going to move, and our intent is to move everything that we need from the senior dining program at that location to the new location. There's quite a bit over there, actually. Shane and I were there today. It's going to take a lot of work, but we think that moving the equipment over there makes a certain amount of sense. One of the best parts about that space over there, incidentally, is that it already has a NSF-rated range hood, which cost us about $30,000 to put in at the senior center 9 years ago, and that's a significant cost savings. And Chris looked at it and thought it was up to snuff, and so I thought that was fantastic. Phase 2 of that, after we get the kitchen kind of sorted out, because we don't think that we'll actually have seniors up there for a good while yet, sometime next year, hopefully. We need some new flooring, some paint. When we met with senior dining on Friday, they told us something we hadn't considered before, and that is that although there are bathrooms over there, they're on the first floor. And so their concern was having a bathroom on the second floor, and I think Shane and I have scoped out where we think that could go as well. But that's a discussion that we need to have about how that's going to look. I think we can do these things in phases. Ultimately, we need to be able to provide LSS a space so they can provide the meals. That will be kind of phase 1. And then the improvements we need to make to the community room are going to be a little bit further on down the road. But all happening before anything opens up next year. So why do we want to do this in the first place? It creates a bunch of consternation from people. It's change, and sometimes people don't like that. And, we're doing it for 3 reasons. We're trying to create a win-win-win here. We want to bring a new business to town that we need and revitalize downtown. We want to provide the same services that we're already providing to seniors. And we think we can do it at the VMC for a much lower cost to the taxpayers than we're currently doing in this building over here. So I want to tie a little bit into kind of some of your council goals that we've already discussed this year. You've made it a priority. You want us to start helping to promote the city. And at the same time, we also need things to promote. And so this is an attraction for people who are visiting, whether it be somebody that's here for a wrestling tournament and wants to get a cup of coffee, which you can't do unless you go to Casey's, and no offense to Casey's because I drink their coffee. It's not exactly, it works when you need it in the morning, but it's not the best coffee. It's an amenity for people who want to live here. It's a huge deal. I've heard a lot of people talk about how the Red Rooster closed and how terrible that was, and now we don't have a place for these kinds of things, and this would be one of them. And it's about revitalizing downtown, which can have this multiplier effect. Mark put a lot of money into downtown, and it makes a difference. When you don't have empty buildings, when you have people walking around, when you have some place to go. We talked about a strong financial strategy for the city. I just want to throw some numbers out here. This is one of your goals. Since 2011, we spent $265,000 on maintenance on that building and utilities. This is money if we had put over at the VMC, if we'd done this 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had to spend this money. Because we're already spending money on utilities over there anyway, heating an empty space, and we wouldn't have had the same maintenance costs. We subsidize, in the last 3 years on average, we have subsidized, and I don't really mean, subsidy is probably the wrong word because it makes it sound like it's a bad thing to do. I think spending money on senior programming is an important part of taxpayer dollars. But ultimately, a lot of people think, well, geez, you know, we're collecting money for meals and everything over there. Aren't we making money? No, we're not, actually. We make some money on that, but we have to chip in about $28,000 a year on average in taxpayer monies. And we think we can save about $26,000 of that just by moving it over to another space. And that seems like a good use of taxpayers' dollars to me. So if you're spending money, if you authorize us to go out there and do the remodeling that needs to happen, we're going to get that money back. Not just in the potential sale of this building, but also every year when we save money moving forward. Lastly, well-maintained infrastructure is important to you as well. Like I said, we've spent a lot of money on maintenance and repairs. It's already been mentioned what was spent on the kitchen remodel and the new floors and the lighting and things like that. This is money that the city could have spent on other needed maintenance and equipment elsewhere. And it's money that in the future, if we accomplish this, we will be able to spend in those other places. And we're heading into a time, as you know, where we're going to be paying the debt service on this tree project, and that means that money's going to be a little tighter. We don't have a lot of money for maintenance now. It's going to get more difficult later. And so this is going to make it a little bit easier for us. Doesn't solve the problem by any means, but it makes it a little easier. So what is this going to look like? When is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? So phase one, we really need to complete the kitchen up at the new location and move Lutheran Social Services by the end of the year. Of course, that would be at their agreement because we have a lease with them at that location until the end of the year. But, based on our meetings with them, we're optimistic that we can make that happen. We're hoping, it's probably more like January. December is a little bit of aggressive, but our hope is we get a new cafe in the space sometime in January. The last phase is remodeling that senior center space, opening in 2021 sometime when we're allowed to open on COVID. So we can start working on that, but ultimately we won't be able to open until we're allowed to by the state and per your policy that you adopted earlier this year. So I'll tell you what I would like to ask you, and really this is kind of the first step, is that ultimately we're looking for your direction, and it's really mine and Shane's and Jeff's, for a kitchen remodel in the VMC. We originally had thought maybe we just issue an RFP for the whole thing, but Shane and I were talking about it today, and we think we have a little bit better plan. And I'm going to let Shane outline a little bit about what that would look like in terms of how we would handle that remodel.
Instead of having an RFP for the project as a whole, we like to put it together in pieces. So we have a plumbing part, the building part, and the electrical portion of that. The biggest thing is the plumber would have to be put into place well before the project can even start, because it has to go through all the state approval, and also with Eric and I will have to put together an appliance list too, because they'll need to know model numbers and all that stuff. So in order to, it's hard to say, hey, we want this when we're the permit applicant on a lot of that stuff for the kitchen. So we can't really have sublease it out to a contractor to figure all that out for us when essentially we're gonna have to do it anyway. So him and I were talking, the best route would just be do it all separately in separate portions, and the amounts are way below the
175, 175,000.
The 175,000 for.
Yeah. Well, we would still get, we wouldn't do a formal bid process, but we would still get quotes, from people. So we'd want to be fiscally responsible about it, but we feel that just for a couple reasons. One, in the interest of time, and two, because we think we probably save some money by essentially acting as our own general contractor. We piecemeal out the plumbing and the electrical and the general construction ourselves, and then whatever other equipment, shelving, and that kind of stuff we need to have in there makes a lot more sense, especially since it's going to take us such a long time to get approval from the state for the plumbing, which is the big deal. And we can't really start much of anything until, other than some demo, until we get the plumbing, and that could take up to 6 weeks.
For the state to react?
Yeah, for the state to react. And my concern is, even though they say it's a 6-week timeline, is, in this time of COVID, they're a lot slower than they usually are. And so if we go through the RFP process, well, then we got to award it, and we got to publish it, and it's going to take a little bit more time. And I don't think there's going to be any value there anyway at the end of the day. So like I said, our proposal is that we go out and get quotes for those individual things. We start with the plumbing in reality, because that's what needs to be done first, and then we kind of go from there.
The majority of that project would be plumbing. As far as the construction, it's a couple walls, some glass board, and screwing some shelves to the wall. So it's very minimal building on the building side of it. So I'd say it's just the biggest thing is getting that plumber here and trying to figure out, what the best route is, and we'll have to make some kind of a chase, I'm sure, to get it to the basement, because it's only an 1.5-inch line running up there now, and it's going to have to be probably at least a 3-inch going down to serve a bathroom, and then a floor drain that'll have to be added, and feeding the 3-compartment sink that's up there correctly. It's going to need some upgrades anyway. So,
do we have the local plumbers that could do this project?
Yeah. I have a few of them.
So you did say that it would be for the kitchen and a bathroom up there.
Yeah, they share a wall, so they just do it all at once.
There's actually a little bit of a space, and it's bordered over, but it looks like they'd already cut out a space where that plumbing is coming up, and so we think we know where a bathroom would go, and like I said, that's something we wouldn't have to do right now. It's something in the future, but we would plumb it so that we could make that happen. Yes.
And the space is large enough for like the handicapped accessible, because we
easily.
There's enough space there to pull all that off. So, yeah, you'd want to put all the plumbing. So if anything that you want to do, all in one plan. Otherwise, you'll have to pay another fee to submit another plan, and then they're looking at something different. They may say, well, you'll have to upsize this now, or if you do it all at once, then it's done and over with. If there's any corrections there, they can let the plumber know that. So, but it's the plumber that actually has to draft that, whoever's doing the work. So that's where the time crunch comes in with getting that done, because they'll have to do a submittal.
The other question that people might have, and this is a little bit off of this particular topic, is that we have 8th graders up there right now from the school, and the question is, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with those 8th graders? Well, they're not going anywhere, because ultimately we're not going to open the senior center until COVID goes away, and they're not going to be up there when COVID goes away anyway. They'll go back to their regular schools. So we don't think that's going to be a conflict by any means, but there might be some folks listening with an 8th grader if they're saying, well, what the heck is going to happen? And our hope is that nothing would happen. Essentially, with those classrooms would stay the same.
Well, how can this work be done if they're up there?
Well, we've talked about this a little bit. We don't think that there's actually conflict, because the work is going to be done in the kitchen primarily, and that area is closed off from where the kids are now. They're not using that space. We're certainly going to have to talk to the school about making that happen. And our thought is that let's try to do as much of the work as possible when they're not there. Whether it be at the end of the day, or whether it be over Christmas break when they're not there, those kinds of things. And so the short answer is that we think we can work it out. But if we don't, if the school has concerns, then we could look at some other space for them as well within the city. I know that we'd already discussed possibly the basement library as an option for them, but I think we can work it out.
Yeah, regardless, you can't start anything until you get the plumbing plan.
No, and that's, like I said, we're 5-6 weeks away from that at this point, and that puts us into the first week of December. And so, we're almost at Christmas break at that point anyway. So I think a lot of it's probably the heavy lifting's probably gonna be happening in December anyway.
Yeah, the only thing you can really do is the electrical and then the demo work, and maybe frame a few walls, and that'll be about all you're gonna be able to do until the plumbing approval is done.
Yep, and we won't even have any framing on this round anyway, because the only work will be in the kitchen. When we put a bathroom in, the framing on that would be later, but the kids would be gone by that point anyway.
So how does this work then with LSS if the kitchen's going to take till December to get going?
Right, and so right now LSS has a lease through the end of the year. What we'll propose to LSS is that you stay in that space, until this new kitchen is complete. And then we move them over. And our goal will be to try to time that. And as I said, we've had a conversation with the folks who are interested in the cafe, and they would want to make sure that get worked out, ahead of time anyway. So that would be the concept. We'd have to talk to them about how that was going to work, but that's how it would work based on what we're proposing.
So the letter that Shirley was referencing to LSS, that was more or less informing them that we were going to end the contract at that building?
That's correct, yes.
And then relocate it over here?
Well, the second part wasn't said in the letter, although we didn't say that specific. The letter did say that we were going to be relocating the senior center, but it wasn't specific about where. But yes, that letter was written because we have some contractual agreements in our lease that says that if we're going to change the lease, we need to notify them. And so we were notifying them, as you know, because you approved the letter, of what was happening. And actually I called the senior director of dining at LSS the week before the letter was sent to let her know that it was coming. And so they were aware of what was going on. At the end of the day, we'll see, what they say, but they've got a pretty good arrangement now because they essentially have kitchen space that they can use. They only spend, I think it's $980 roughly is what we get in rent from them. They're essentially getting it for almost nothing. And so our belief is that if we build a new kitchen, that it will make sense for them. And we've toured the site above the VMC after they received the letter. They came in and talked to us again for a second time, and they viewed that space, and they want to make sure that it's up to code because they need to get a commercial license in order to operate the kitchen. And so that's why we're working with the health officials to make sure that it's to code so that they can do that. And that's why we'll be moving the equipment over so they can use the same equipment to cook and things like that. So we're heading down that path and trying to keep everybody informed and on the same page at the same time. Any other questions? So what I would like, if that's all right, is if I could get a vote on the record just directing us to start, getting bids for that kitchen remodel. That'll help us get started, and then we can go from there. If you're amenable to that tonight. It doesn't bind us to do the project, but we got to know how much it's going to cost before we move forward.
Right. I think that'd be an excellent idea.
Is that your motion?
Something like that, yeah. Whatever you think, yes.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I got that, yeah.
I guess I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to get some figures to remodel the VMC and the plumbing work to the state.
Yep.
Is there any discussion? We'll call a vote.
Teigs.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Landine.
Aye.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye, motion carries. On that, if we could fire off an email first thing tomorrow to Christie up there in the cities and let her know.
I've got a letter, for you all to look at and review. We'll have a discussion. We have a closed session later to talk about the sale of the building, but I need to get your approval on that because we committed to them when they were here last week that we would put whatever we do in writing to them, and so we need to make sure we do that.
Yep. Okay.
Can I just ask one question about the CARES Act with the
You bet.
elevator and that over there?
You bet.
The one question I have been asked is the size of the elevator and, oh shoot, Val left. Should have
That's
asked
okay.
Val.
I could probably answer it.
Okay,
I know how big they are.
at the library, there's two different sizes.
Yeah, there are.
And do you have to hold the button in to make it move?
No, I don't believe that that's the case, but I will say that one is slightly bigger than the other because if you have one where it goes and it opens and closes just on one end, then you can get away with a little bit less space. But if you have one where you have essentially two different doors, then it has to be slightly larger. What we envision is, and we spoke to the elevator company, that the Premier Lift, who actually did those, and so they would provide this one as well. And it would be 5 foot by 5 foot, essentially 60 inches square. I don't know if that's the larger one or the smaller one over there. I just know that it's going to be 60 inches square.
You go out the same door you come in?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I went over to the library and I rode the smaller elevator.
Yep.
And you have to hold the button to make it work.
Okay.
If you let go, it stops.
Okay.
And I don't think we want that.
But
We don't want that.
I did not ride the big one, so I don't know that. But
Okay,
the little one.
I will ask them about this. I should have ridden the elevator myself, George. You got one on me there because I haven't actually ridden it.
Well, he's an adventurer.
But
I'm just trying to learn what's going on here.
Yeah.
He was having a Labor Day ride.
Yeah.
I was also approached by a citizen thinking, since elderly people are in there, there needs to be some kind of a phone. If something happens, they can call somebody.
Okay.
I don't know anything about that. I didn't do any research there, but
Well, they do have a phone at their current location.
no,
he's saying
phone
in
in
the
the
elevator.
elevator.
In the elevator.
There's
Oh,
usually an emergency
there'd be a call
button.
button on it, yeah.
I don't know.
I'll
It just was
I'll
something
look
that
into
said.
that. I don't know. Technically, just so everybody understands that this is technically not an elevator. It's technically a wheelchair lift, and the codes on those are slightly different. They can only go up to 14 feet, and we have an 11-foot 4-inch clearance over there, and so we meet the code for a wheelchair lift. But just so the council understands that that's really what it is, and it may not have all the bells and whistles that a full elevator would have, but a full elevator would be much more costly.
I'm not saying we need a phone. I'm just saying that was something they mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that we're
I'll
thinking
look
about it.
I'll think about it and then look into it. I'll have to talk to Premier Lift about that. I just don't know.
Because I'm just wanting to make sure, like, a lot of people drive those little carts now and everything.
Yes. And
That it's big enough to drive a cart in there and.
Absolutely. That's what it's intended for. It's intended for those kinds of carts and wheelchairs and things like that. Absolutely. It will work for that. Yep. Don't put your golf cart in there. That might be a little too much. I don't know if you can get that through the door at the
They don't
DNC.
trust me to drive that either.
But
We've got a mic, Shirley?
Yeah, I have one question though. On those lifts, you have to make sure that we're going to be able to fit the appliances too in there to get them up to the second floor.
I've been thinking about that. About how do we get them up there? Well, I thought we were just going to put you on the end of a rope and we'll put it up in
Yeah, crane would be nice.
That'd be up to Shane, I think.
There's those steps, they're nice and wide steps.
Up to Shane to get
There's
him up
screws
there.
and bolts and things. We'll make it work.
Everything comes apart.
Yeah, but does it go back together?
Well, that's not the issue. It
Get
comes
Brian
apart.
to
one way or
over there,
another.
he'll get her together.
Okay,
I think that's it. I don't
beat that horse pretty good. So then the next item on the,
We haven't voted yet.
Yeah, I think you
Did we?
yeah, we did.
Oh my gosh, what am I? Completely went over my head.
You're on to the next step of more work.
There we go.
Wow,
Go
wow.
ahead. Under
Work
new
begets
business for the
work.
city administrator.
The next two items on the agenda are related to the snowplow policy. Shane and I have discussed this, and we know that often in the past people say, well, when do we plow, and how often do we plow, and where do we plow, and why aren't we plowing? And stop plowing because you're ticketing my car, things like that. So we decided it'd be a good idea to discuss a snowplow policy, and this also includes the contracts for snow hauling for this winter. I'm sorry we didn't expect so much snow in the last week, otherwise we'd have gotten to you 2 weeks ago, but with that I'll turn it over to Shane.
I guess I'm hoping, I don't think you want me to read these policies to you tonight, but hoping you all had a chance to look through them. If you had any questions on it, I can answer them. It's kind of similar to what we've been doing. It's just more explicit on when and why, and as far as ticketing, I think that's going to help too. Because in the past, we get a call, hey, someone hit my mailbox. Well, we don't have a policy on that. We just end up going over and replacing the mailbox. Well, at least we have something in writing saying this is what we do when that happens. Same with trash cans. We tip over someone's trash can, they want us to come clean it all up. Well, it's not really our fault that it's 3 to 8 feet out into the road. And we try to plow around it. The snow's going somewhere. Things like that. It kind of addresses all those little piddly issues, I call them, but they're still issues, and we still get complaints on them. So it kind of helps give us guidance for that. It's something the league has actually kind of recommended a few years ago too, that we draft a policy on that. There's probably going to be some other policies following this with some other things that we do. Then at least we'll have everything in writing, and it kind of helps give some people guidance.
I think it covers everything. It's pretty detailed. Once approved, is it going to be on the website for everybody to get a hold of? Or?
Yeah, we can put it on the website. You bet.
It'd be cheaper than trying to mail it to everybody.
Well, we probably have to make some hard firm copies if people stop and want it. I would think.
We can do that too.
Don't need hundreds, but have a couple on hand in case somebody would ask.
We usually keep them over in the city hall office over there along with the fence requirements and building permit applications and that. So.
Well, I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2020-68 for the updated snowplow policy.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? We'll call the vote.
Van Dyke,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Teigs,
Aye.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye. Motion carries. Next is resolution on the snow hauling contracts.
Same as last year. From time to time we need extra trucks to haul snow away. So far this year we haven't, but we haven't even taken ours out. It's been too wet to load with a snow blower. We do utilize them quite often during the winter.
Is the rate the same as last year?
Rates are all the same. Yep.
Okay. I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2020-69, the snowplow contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? We'll call the vote.
Tao,
Aye.
Van Dyke,
Aye.
Teigs,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye. Motion carries.
The next three items, Mayor, are related to the Phase 3 street project, and Chris Larson from ISG is here. The first one is a change order number 3, and this is on the substantial completion date. Originally, our substantial completion date was October 1st. There are a variety of reasons of why we didn't, the contractor didn't meet that. Shane and I walked it on October 8th with representatives from, it was ISG, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was our inspector, our RPR with ISG.
Tim.
Yep, and we think that it reached substantial completion on that date, and ultimately, though, because it had to move 7 days, RD has to approve this, but before RD could approve it, you needed to approve it, Rural Development, Jeff Van Buren, so we're moving through the bureaucratic process so that Dunnick can be 7 days late, which they already are. Chris, do you have anything to add to that as far as why they were late?
Yeah, primarily came down to, we ended up installing about 800 additional feet of sanitary service. Just, I think I say it before every project, we're going to learn a lot when we start opening up the ground and shared services and rogue services that run down a whole alley or something. So that stuff kind of adds up to not only some additional costs, but additional time to figure out and get hooked up. So that was part of their justification for the extension, and really that was enough to get where they needed to be. They cited a few other things, but we didn't really even dissect those very much because the additional service work warranted the extension they were asking for. And I did, since we spoke earlier today, Eric, I did hear back from the state engineer from Rural Development who reviews that, and he's okay with the change order as well. He thought it was justified as well.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2020-70 to do the change order for the substantial completion date to October 8th.
I'll second that.
So we got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Call the vote.
Teagues?
Aye.
Van Dyke?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Tell?
Aye.
Mayor Peterson?
Aye. Motion carries.
I have, sometimes we forget to put the originals.
Oh,
RD
yes.
needs the
You want to get
signature.
those signed tonight, don't you?
I don't need to take them with me tonight, but I mean, if you're able to get
We'll
them signed
we'll
quick?
get them
Okay.
signed.
Okay, great.
The next item then, Mayor, is just to call in for an assessment hearing, and I think Chris can probably talk about the process for that too.
Yep, part of the statute 429 process is the final assessment hearing. We're proposing to have that on the 23rd of next month. We will take care of all the mailing of the notices and the getting the notice to the paper for proper publication, and one of the last boxes to check for that process. And Mayor, before the meeting we talked about maybe getting together and
Yeah, gotta
make sure we remember where we were at. Yeah, I know we went over potential assessments at that time prior to the improvement hearing. Yep.
whenever you guys are available, just let me know and we can get that and like get that handled before we do the hearing. So
Yeah, notices will need to go out, let's see, the 23rd, so that, I think the 6th is that Friday, so that's we try to meet before next Friday, I guess. Would be good if we're going to include that information in the notices.
got nothing that week, so that'd be fine. Just whatever works with you guys' schedule.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2020-71 calling for the assessment hearing for the Phase 3 infrastructure improvement project on November 23rd. Is that a 6:45 type one, or doesn't it matter?
Probably 6:45. It'd be better to do it first and get it out of the way.
Do it at that time on that date.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Call the vote.
Van Dyke?
Aye.
Teagues?
Aye.
Tell?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Mayor Peterson?
Aye. Motion carries.
Last item is just to pay app number 8 to Dunnick.
The expensive one.
Yeah.
We table that?
I'll give you the contractor's number and you can. Yeah, so we're still withholding 5% retainage. So this would be for $1,020,820.82. And we're still withholding $281,949.04. And just to highlight them, the project's not done. Substantial completion is what was the date for October 8th. There are punch list items and things to clean up, and the contract date for that is December 1st. They're on pace to finish probably in mid-November, but they have until December 1st so to get those items.
Is there anything next spring, like I'm thinking like the sod that was put down, is there anything coming back next spring that they look at, or is that?
That would likely fall as a warranty item if something needs to be corrected in the spring. Yep. So there's there are bonds in place, so they'll get paid out in full after they reach final completion. But if there are issues, there's still a bond in place that you can go after.
I just had that asked of me if something goes wrong, are they coming back to fix stuff? So.
Yep.
You spray the weeds or
mow the lawn,
replace the dead stuff. Okay.
Did we do that motion?
Nope, waiting for a motion.
Have at it.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2020-72, approving payment to Dunick for the work completed on phase 3A1 infrastructure improvement. Pay app number 8.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Call the vote.
Jones.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Teagues.
Aye.
Van Dyke.
Aye.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye, motion carries.
Yeah, I should have passed.
Matt, did you have anything before we?
I do not, Mayor.
Okay.
Just
I
totally.
should have passed the pay app along at the same time. That's another.
Oh, now it's going to cost you extra.
Yeah.
It'll cost us extra because he'll add it to his.
I'd entertain a motion then to close the public portion so we could enter a closed session.
I will make that motion.
Thank you.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
That's all for me.
We get everything all mixed up.
Yeah, I got a bunch I got to send.